So James, we ended our last segment talking about this idea that employees can really sit anywhere and do their job function from any location for certain types of jobs, certain functions. So that got me thinking about, pay transparency and cost of living differences. Because, if employers are really, their talent pool has expanded to national, what does that mean for their pay scales? So
Yeah, so for the most part, I think companies would not find extra bodies in states that are extremely expensive or the cost of living is higher. Typically, right. You would find a state where maybe equivalent or lower or near enough to your jurisdiction to where it's not significant. But you're right, different states have different minimum wage and different payment requirements. Some states have mandatory paid sick leave, other states don't. So it does create a host of complications. And the hot issue for 2021 is, can you ask them how much they're currently making at their job? And certain states and cities make certain ordinances that say you can't ask. And their logic is that you're essentially discriminating against women or minorities by only paying them slightly more than what the previous employer that was discriminating paid them. So the better way to ask that question is, what are you anticipating to make? Or do an internal audit at your company and see if there's any perception that you're favoring one protected class over another. And in California, they just passed a law where any company with more than 50 employees anywhere has to file an EEO-1 report that breaks down pay based on sex, race, and national origin.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So we have searches going on in several states where it is illegal, to ask past salary. And so just as a matter of just consistency, we have avoided asking that question overall, just because it makes things easier, quite honestly, to not have to worry. It's part of our training of we give candidates an option. We can say, what do you think is your market value? What are you seeking to make a move? What would you require? So we'll ask it in a variety of ways. And, sometimes candidates will just volunteer and they'll say, well, here's where I'm currently at, and here's what I need, what I would be seeking to make a move. And sometimes they'll say, well, here's what I'm seeking. And if it seems off, then we'll dig in more. How did you arrive at that? What is the, does that include all of your compensation or just base salary? And so we try to really dig in and ask follow-up questions, but very cautious about asking those questions around past salary. So, and the other thing we've seen just in regards to different markets is that when you have a candidate, let's say saying they'll move from the West Coast and they want to return to Michigan, psychologically, even though we know the cost of living is different here, it's very hard for candidates to accept a huge pay cut. There's not going to be a 50% or 40% adjustment, even though our cost of living here in Michigan might be 40 or 50% less than San Francisco or some other place on the West Coast.
Right. I think you raised two great questions. One is we need to train the interviewers on what questions they can and can't ask and what are other ways to accomplish their goals in getting information. And two, I think we need to be more creative with our perks and our pay. And maybe we have some type of lower base, but more performance options and criteria. And, in California, some employees are accustomed to getting that equity or phantom stock or some skin in the game. So there's a cultural thing and expectation that you have to be mindful of as well.
Absolutely. No, these are all interesting issues, and I'm sure we'll continue to develop over the next, year or two as we get beyond, hopefully, the worst of this COVID crisis.